Hey, everybody, it's Sherry Tutkus, the Green Nurse, and welcome to the Green Nurse Podcast, where we bring hope and inspiration for growth and healing. We often talk about things that people don't like to talk about because they are often very important subjects to be discussed to decrease stigma for healing. So, no one likes to talk about healthcare and servicemen. No one wants to talk about burnout. No one wants to talk about trauma. However, this is what we've been seeing today with the pandemic. There's so many different traumas that patients are experiencing, medical professionals are experiencing, and service men and women are experiencing. So today I'm reintroducing Matt Cascio back to the Green Nurse platform, where we're going to discuss what it looks like for us as individuals who have both experienced compassion fatigue, what that would look like, and how we got through it. Matt is a member of the American Cannabis Nurses Association, the Cannabis Nurses Network, and cannabis certified by the Medical Cannabis Institute. He's an educational speaker at the Truman Medical Center, as well as several cannabis events in Missouri. Matt is also a Facebook page called Matt the Cannabis Nurse, where he educates people via social media. He is currently working as part of the Cannabis Care Team, a nurse-owned company that is providing cannabis education in dispensaries in Oklahoma and Missouri. Matt's vision is to create an individualized patient treatment plan to set them up for long-term success with their cannabinoid therapy. So you all saw Matt's interview that we just had, the last episode. So today we're actually just going to have a discussion about what compassion fatigue is. You know, what does it look like? What are the experiences that clinicians and servicemen have that can contribute to that, and how we work through it? So Matt, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm looking forward to having this informal discussion with you. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's an honor to be able to, always spend time with you and to be able to talk about something that I really have so much passion about, because I know right now there's a lot of nurses out there suffering and want to help them out and make them feel whole again. That'd be nice.
So let's talk about compassion fatigue. We call it burnout. And compassion fatigue sounds so much nicer than burnout, because burnout has such a negative connotation, and we shouldn't be burnt out if we're nurses, and we shoulda, coulda, woulda, should do things differently, but compassion fatigue is a really nice way of putting something, putting it into words as to what we're experiencing, because we're not burnt out from taking care of people. We're burnt out from certain situations that have contributed. Would you agree? Is that kind of how?
Well, yeah, that's definitely true. But you've also got to remember that when you're really talking about compassion fatigue, you're not just talking about burnout. You're talking about burnout and secondary trauma syndrome are co-travelers that travel together that comprise what we call compassion fatigue. There's plenty of people. I don't know anybody in any walk of life, that any business that they have, even if they own their own business, that don't get burnt out at their job. But when you start talking about nurses, firefighters, paramedics, cops, veterinarians that see people suffering from putting their dogs down, that secondary trauma syndrome that we suffer from the people that we're trying to care for, the people that we're helping, that is what affects us. And that's how, secondary trauma syndrome with burnout from what's going on with the system. I mean, burnout is like, the perceived demands are always going to outweigh the perceived resources. It's just the way it is. And so, yeah, burnout and secondary trauma syndrome really contribute to compassion.
So we look at what's the difference. So burnout looks like this. Secondary.
Burnout is more of the feelings of inefficacy, that no matter how hard you try, you can't get your job done. And there's all these perceived demands and you don't have enough resources. It's just feelings of complete inefficacy. You can't do anything. You're just
so helpless
with the system. Yeah. Hopelessness, depressed. I mean, it could be a multitude of things. Then secondary trauma syndrome is more about fear. It's more about you're just afraid. These triggers at work have got you so upset that when somebody asks you to do something, you freak out.
So almost like you're hyper vigilant.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically what's happening is your neocortex is being overwhelmed with so much energy that you're just, it can't process everything. And that's why you see these people at work that um, they're not themselves anymore. Their integrity has just been completely compromised. They're not really the person they used to be. They call in, they're complaining all the time. They have a victim mentality. They don't want to work and they don't even want to be there. So it's really, a different thing than just being burnt out.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a good distinction.
Yeah.
Really good
I
distinction
mean,
to make.
you see these people too that constantly they're transferring, like at the hospital, they're transferring from unit to unit because it's going to be better at the next one. And
Mm.
and then it's maybe a couple weeks, good, it's okay, but then they're right back where they were because it's like they say, everywhere you go, there you are.
There you go. You carry your energy with you.
And once you get your head right, you can do a lot of things, but you're just taking that burnout and secondary trauma everywhere you go. So until you start doing something about it, you could wind up really getting it's not just a a mental thing. As you know, just like me, because we've talked about this, it turns into a physical thing, and it can
Physiological.
be very detrimental to our health. Very,
Truly. Truly.
yeah.
So what did compassion fatigue look like to you in your experience? Like how did it manifest in your life?
Well, it was weird, I never really even heard of compassion fatigue. I had left a level one trauma center for a year where I'd been working in their surgery department for 6 years. And I took a break and I was doing some stuff on my own. And then I decided to go back to nursing and went into oncology because I thought I'd be able to spend more time with my patients, which I really did get to spend a lot of time with them. But I'm very empathic and I became very attached to these people very quickly and their families. And a lot of those people died.
Mm.
And it took a toll on me. Like I I I didn't know what was going on because I had never heard of compassion fatigue. And a lady that worked for Novartis came in and did a 1 hour CEU class, and it was all about compassion fatigue, and it really made me realize. And she's the one that turned me on to the ProQual test that was in the information that she gave. And um, that was kind of how I really realized after I took that test that I was really suffering from compassion fatigue. I really didn't know much about it, but I knew that I was waking up in the morning. I mean, I had all the signs. As a nurse, I was so burnt out. I was always changing. Oh, I'll go work. I'll work med surg. I'll work telemetry. I'll work surgery. I'll do that. I'll be a home health nurse. I've done all these different things, and everywhere I went, I eventually was burnt out because the system. It was the system that burnt me out. But then when I went into oncology, is when I really got sick because those people just. I mean, I love people. That's who I am. I'm a helper.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
healer, and
You're a healer.
it affected me. So I couldn't even. On my way to work, I was starting to shake so bad, and I, I was sick all the time. My stomach was just like in knots. I was sick all the time, and I couldn't. I was so nervous trying to just access people's ports. It was like I had PTSD almost, where somebody was talking to you, but you were somewhere else, like looking down. It
Mm.
was pretty bad. I mean, it was pretty bad, and I just, you know, you, they don't teach managers about compassion fatigue, and my manager just thought maybe I wasn't, a good fit because I had left this one infusion center because I thought, hey, maybe it's this place I'm going on. I'll go to another one.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, yeah, that's just very interesting. So, different situations. So, you just got to think about right now, just think about all of the nurses and doctors that are experiencing, watching, and witnessing the trauma that patients and families are experiencing.
Yeah.
To me, the most difficult part about hospice nursing when I did it for 3 years wasn't actually working with the patients, but it was working with the families that were so devastated and
Yeah.
affected so much by death and dying and losing their loved one. That's what pulled on my heartstrings the most. It was so rewarding to be able to cross someone over to a different realm, but then their families, if they're not ready for it, I mean, it's the mental, emotional, spiritual part of my psyche giving into, working with these patients. And then how does it affect me physically?
No, I know exactly what you mean because, I mean, I was always that nurse that was just like, I didn't just take care of the patient. I
Yeah, took
always
care
took care of the
of
family and
family.
the patient. And I know exactly how you feel because when I was a case manager, I had a lot of family members that would always keep calling me after I had dismissed patients and stuff, because I just get people, I bond with people real quick, but that's what made me a good nurse because people
Yes.
trusted me. And that's an important thing. So it's not a bad thing.
No, it's good. You have that ability to truly connect with the patient's heart. That
Yeah.
transpersonal nursing is just so key when we're working with patients, truly. So what did it look like to you? What ended up happening with you?
So basically for me, you know, I'm an older guy, so I had some options. I didn't have to stay at a job that was making me so sick anymore. And it took me a little while to realize that. I felt guilty about leaving nursing, but I literally had to step away because I was sick. I was sick and tired of being sick all the time. And I was
Yeah.
having these feelings of trying to go to work at a job that I just, like I said, once I took the ProQual and I noticed that my compassion satisfaction was really, really, it, I just I didn't have it anymore. And I said to myself, listen, Matt, you became a nurse when you were 38 years old. You've given it 20 years and you've taken care of thousands of people and touched thousands of lives, man. You can move on and maybe you can help people that have
There you go.
fatigue. And so, here I am, a couple of years later after healing. I mean, it took me a while to heal because I would cry all the time.
Me too. Me too.
It
You
was
know.
hard, man. It was really hard watching all those people die. It affected me very, very deeply.
Yeah, I hear you. I totally hear you. And that's the other thing too is, as nurses too, when we're working in institutions and dealing with death and dying, where's our mental, emotional, spiritual support? Is there anything that's set up for clinicians? I'm going to tell you a quick story of a patient that I took care of, and I'll never ever forget it. It was a patient that I was in the cardiac ICU. She had open heart surgery, a cardiac, cabbage times four vessels. She was on, she was diabetic. She didn't have legs. She was in kidney failure. So why they operated on her, was just the last resort. She was, this was it. So one of the things that ended up happening is she coded. Okay. And basically coded means her heart was starting, she went into, ventricular fibrillation. So her ventricles were quivering and she had pacing wires in already. So here, she's circling the drain of despair when she's hooked up to everything. Her drugs are maximized. She's got pacing wires in and her heart is still fibrillating. So in other words, she wasn't pumping enough oxygenated blood to provide life for her. So we had to open her chest. Can you imagine? Freaking cracking open a chest and taking these little tiny paddles and putting it on a fibrillating heart. That was hard. That was tough. Really, really tough. And to know that this was the last ditch effort and is it going to work? Is it going to save her? And then just being like, calling it. And then you're with this body that's completely opened. And then having to call the family and then having to, to really just process that and to look at the patient and be, the families be like, did they suffer? And I'm like, God, I hope not. But you know what I'm saying? Like, these are things that as nurses, we don't think about. And so what did I do? I buried it. I didn't process it. It went into the data bank to come up later when I started to experience my own personal trauma with the medical system. So
Right.
all of these traumatic experiences that I experienced as a nurse working in the intensive care unit, I was able to bank and put aside and put away until I was on the other side of the bed, sick, suffering, and dying myself. So, right?
Yeah.
And that's when it started to pop in. And that's when my PTSD started to really evolve.
Yeah. It's weird when you sit and just talking about it, you can feel that trigger but you breathe through it and you keep moving forward. That's
Yeah.
what I do. That's what resiliency is all about, feeling that trigger coming on, yet controlling that sympathetic nervous system, and where you can rest and you can digest and you can just keep moving forward, man. 'Cause
Rest and digest.
that's
I
what,
like that.
what we got, man. We got to keep moving forward. So, but yeah, I just, I mean, I have 3 friends, and their mothers have, one of them's getting ready to pass away, and 2 of them passed away over the COVID. And these poor nurses, that are taking care of these people, man, it's like they got to hold a Post-it note up. Hey, your family member died. I mean, I didn't go to nursing school for that, man. I mean,
No.
they're thrown at these nurses and these doctors are being thrown into these situations that are just wow.
They're making decisions that no one should have to make. And
Exactly.
they're being forced to make these decisions because there's not adequate support in the system to
Right.
support nurses and licensed health professionals to do the job that we intended to do. We go into these professions because we care and love human beings.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know any nurses that said, "Man, I'm going to go become a nurse because I can make a lot of money." I mean, I don't know that many people that I just don't know those people.
I
So
don't either.
I got into it because I love people, and that's why I left corporate America, because it wasn't satisfying my soul. So that's why, like I said earlier, it was hard to kind of leave nursing because we when we help other people, we're helping ourselves at the same time, because
Truly.
we get these feelings that are 100% ours, that no one can ever take away from us. And I knew I wasn't going to get that from that anymore, but the other side of me just constantly getting sick all the time. And
Right.
my health, my father said, "Matt, no job is worth you losing your health over."
No.
Because
It's
it
mhm.
took me
I
about,
truly
yeah, it took
I
me about,
truly realized that when I was on the other side of the bed.
yeah.
So here's the other thing too, is when you're a nurse, right? And you see what you see, and then let's talk about this completely traumatic event that I totally didn't process until I started to work with medical and pharmaceutical trauma. So patients that are experiencing medical and pharmaceutical trauma from the traditional system. I truly didn't understand what that meant until I went through it myself, right? So you think about
Sure.
going into having, first of all, working in an environment and getting sick while you're working. I was an infectious disease nurse. Okay. An infectious disease nurse, working in home infusion, working as a clinical nurse specialist liaison in 3 different big hospitals in Boston, teaching and educating, coming in contact with a lot of patients that have infectious disease. I was an infectious disease nurse, following all the protocols, but yet I still got sick. I got an infectious disease that landed me in the intensive care unit and I almost died.
Wow.
And then my own health, my own, caregivers, the people that I worked for didn't seem to care because I was just another, it took a while for me to, I was like, it took a really while for me to truly grasp that I was just a number.
Yeah, I had kind of realized that, and that's why I left nursing a year, a couple of years before, because I was just so burnt out. And I literally, I started a business on Amazon, and I was making about $10,000 a month. But I did
Nice.
that for a year, and whilst it was cool, it wasn't that cool, because
Yeah.
all I ever did was sit at home and do orders and take care of stuff. And the only person I talked to every day was the guy at the post office. So
Right.
as a nurse, it wasn't very satisfying. So I kind of weighed out my options and decided, hey, I'm going to go back to nursing, but I got to do something different. I'm going to go into oncology and, really help some people and make a difference. And I did. But unfortunately,
Same thing.
yeah, unfortunately, I was burnt out at that hospital, and then just watching a lot of these people that I had gotten close to and their family members that, were bringing in Christmas gifts, to us all the time, or flat, just stuff that, oh, it's your birthday, blah, and then all of a sudden they're dead, and it's just like,
Mm.
it really took an extreme toll on me. And I'm just glad that, like I said, I'm glad that I look back on it now, like I'm so glad that I went through that because it's made me such a better person. And now I'm
And
at this point where I'm able to help other people that are suffering and raise awareness about compassion fatigue.
it's right. And what did we call that? We call that post-traumatic growth,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, when
Because I feel like there's a lot of nurses out there, kind of like you, that just thought compassion fatigue was a cool name for burnout. But
yes.
it's more than burnout. It's seeing these our patients suffer and seeing our people die, or seeing that fireman not being able to. I mean, those guys go on a lot of medical calls, and they watch a lot of people pass out in the field. Those EMTs, the paramedics. So, I mean, just like I said earlier, veterinarians, they have to watch, people put down this animal that's like part of their family and cry in front of them 5 or 10.
No,
Man, yeah. So
it's tough.
I didn't even know when I started really working on my compassion fatigue certification and all that. I didn't know veterinarians were, and it was somebody I would have never thought that would, wow, be one of those classes of people that would really be considered that they get a lot of high levels of compassion fatigue at their job. But yeah, so
Mm,
pretty wild. But it just goes to show you that, you could be affected anyway. But like I said, I definitely think there's a lot of nurses that they just think they're severely burnt out. They don't realize they have compassion fatigue because they don't
right.
understand what it really is.
They don't understand what it is. And so how do we take care of ourselves with compassion fatigue? What are the things that we do?
Well, you know, when I work with people, first off, the first thing I really make sure that they're at a place in their life where, they've taken the pro qual and they see kind of where they are. But I also want to make sure that they're going to accept where they are and they're going to take responsibility for where they are before I want to work with them. Because if they don't want to accept that there's really, this is really happening to them, because it's not, really in a helper role. It's not if you're going to get it, it's probably when you're going to get it.
There
And
you go.
they don't want to be responsible. They're not, then I don't really want to waste their time, And,
Right.
some people you can, as we know as nurses, you can lead people down the stream, but you can't make them take a drink. So,
Right. Right. True. True. I totally hear you.
but
So I think that's really important, that patients take this, the quality of life questionnaire, which I'm going to take so we can talk about it.
sure.
And then so you look at that and then you educate. So basically find out, what is your resistance to this, right? So asking them those questions of, what's going on? What changes do you think you need to make? So is that the kind of,
Well, what I do is I kind of I talk about where they're at. I start kind of working with people because it's funny. I became a life coach and I never got my certification because I got so sick. And as I was healing, I didn't really think about getting my certification because I was just healing and I was started doing some other things.
right?
And I was working on I thought, now's the time. I'm healed. I could talk about all this stuff that's happened to me. I don't get, sure, I feel a trigger, but I breeze through it. And I need to help other people. And that's when I had actually got the certification program like a year earlier and did nothing with it. And I, over the quarantine, that was the first, I got, a certification as a compassion fatigue professional. And through that, and through my research, I learned some ways. But so as a life coach, a lot of the symptoms, a lot of people are just pretty lost. So I'm
Right.
trying to help people find a little balance. I use a lot of life coaching techniques when I'm talking to people, but at the same time with compassion fatigue, when you're healing, you got to really think about, your intentions and your integrity. Because if you're not deliberately trying to change yourself, once again, that goes back to responsibility. You're not going to get well. Because,
True.
well, like I said earlier, a lot of people are trying to figure out, like how they can stay at a job that they feel like crap about when they go there, and it scares them because they know they're going to see somebody get sick and die. Or me, I could walk away, but other people need to figure it out, and that's what I work on with them. I work on techniques. A mission statement is a good example. I have a specific set of questions that I give them a worksheet that they can put a mission statement together. Because, when you write something down, it becomes pretty solid. I mean, it's something that you can look at.
It is. It's the first agreement. Be impeccable with your word.
Well, sure. That's what I'm saying. And when you have something written down, it really, like they say, when you have if you have an idea, it's just a wish until you write something down. Then it's a goal that you can work on. And if you're going to be deliberate about changing, and you're going to take responsibility to change, and you're going to have intentions to do that, a mission statement is really awesome.
So give me an example of what a mission statement would look like.
I don't want to go a whole lot into it, but yeah, I ask people why first of all, you start asking people, are you choosing to be at your job? Because a lot of people, you have to change their mindset. Most people, they go to work and they're scared and they bitch and they complain, but they got to remember, if they, like Wayne Dyer says, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. You have to learn to change your perception, because you're still in a job that has affected you physically and mentally. And you're trying to figure out how to do that. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but as you work on it, you're going to get stronger and stronger. But so I ask people, what are your, why do you choose to do this job? What was your why? Why did you want to go into this? A lot of people go into this field of this helping field, kind of because of the compassion satisfaction. You think about, they want to work in the healthcare field. They like helping people. They like being involved with teamwork and things like that, working with other people. And sometimes it's just almost altruistic. People they want to be involved in healthcare because, like if they had a sandwich and somebody was hungry and they were hungry, they'd give it to that person because that's how they are. And so, I'm trying to get that person back to their, almost in sales. What was your why you got into this? And so, but I also start talking about future things, ifs and thens and things like that. But I also bring in later on, one of the things that's very, very important is staying connected with people. When you're, one thing I knew, I realized is, when I became a nurse, is, man, people really aren't good at asking other people to help them. They don't, it's not in our nature. And so.
Yeah, Matt, I get it. Can I tell you? Because when I got sick, being on the other side of the bed and not asking for help. So me as a nurse could do it all, single mother of 3. I got a child with a disability, working a full-time job in 3 different hospitals, making it work, making it happen, feeling stress, of course.
Sure.
However, but then, getting sick and then being on the other side of the bed and going from high functioning to not functioning at all, to reinventing yourself and looking back at everything and to try to processing emotion, right? Around, I couldn't go back to what I was doing. Why? Well, who knows? It could have, a lot of different reasons why, compassion fatigue, burnout, just too much work. I'm not supposed to be where I'm supposed to be. Like, who knows what the answer is, but truly, like, being able to process emotion is probably one of the most difficult things we have to do as human beings. And having tools to be able to do that is so critical and essential. And I think that your program, that you're doing is amazing. I think this is what people need.
And that's
change perception.
Yeah, and that's why, when I was talking about staying connected is, reach out to a couple people that you're very close with at your job, or one of your family members, and let them know that you're trying to change and what you're going through and what you're working on, and show them your mission statement. When those are the people that, when we're having a bad day and they see us fall down, they can come pick us up, and they can say, "Hey, get a cup of coffee, man. Looks like you're having a bad day," or something. And those are also the people, when we tell people about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to work on ourselves and change, and we tell them that we're going to do this, we're a lot more likely to do it, because we don't want to not do what we say we're going to do in front of other people. we
We're going to hold ourselves accountable, and the way of being accountable.
accountability. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, accountability and writing it down.
That word, but it wasn't.
Yeah, yeah. So I had a brain blip too. So one of the things that I was going to say is, as nurses, we give, and oftentimes we don't ask for help until we're forced to. And so
Sure.
being sick on the other side of the bed, I was forced to have to ask for help to take care of my children, to do my laundry, to do my grocery shopping, just to help me to get to appointments, all of that. So talk about being really, really humbled.
Yeah, because all that stuff, it makes you feel like, why can't I do that? I mean, you feel bad about yourself because you can't do the things you used to do and take care of the people that love you. And, I can imagine it was extremely an emotional process for you.
Felt like I lost a part of my identity
I'm
because
sure
you
you
know what I
did.
mean? So
Well, and that's one of the things, too, why people go into nursing, because it is part of their identity. All of our jobs define us a little bit. And, when you're a nurse and you take care of people and yeah, that's great for your psyche, your mental psyche about you and who you are.
yeah, truly fascinating,
Yeah.
truly fascinating. So basically, what are you doing now, Matthew? I want to make sure we get everyone your information so they can get a hold of you and work with you so they can live a better quality of life for sure with all the tools that you have to offer.
Well, actually, right now, because of COVID, over the last couple months, I've been pretty blessed. My course, I turned it into a 1-hour course, and I got approved here in Missouri by the Missouri Department of Public Safety to actually work with. I could actually teach the class there's 13, well, actually 19 different training centers throughout the state of Missouri where I could offer that as a 1-hour
Right.
continuing education. And through Miss Marcy and Miss Heather, I had an opportunity with the Ohio Nursing Association to become accredited through them, and I can do the class. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it's hard to walk into a hospital and try to teach a class right now, and it's hard to walk into a police station or a fire station. So, what I'm really doing right now is just completing a website, and I'm putting my course online where people could
Good.
be able to just take it. It's probably going to be maybe around $19, and
Oh, awesome. We're going to put it on our website for sure.
they'll be able
Absolutely.
they'll be able to get just take a survey, and then they'll be able to get a certificate of completion that'll be sent to them, or same as well for the peace officers of Missouri. There's a different certification that will be sent to them. But yeah, for nurses, the Ohio Nurses Association, obviously they're a huge accreditation group here with all nurses throughout the country. So, but I want to get it out there. The time is,
Yeah.
people need this. And I, I'm nobody special. I'm just some guy that
You're making a difference. You're
I'm
making a
trying to,
difference.
just trying to make a difference and help some people out.
It's true. I mean, this is like, even I discussed, at the American Cannabis Nurses Association, my presentation was spirituality is the root of cannabis care. So truly, when we're working with patients, we're focusing on symptoms, body parts, disease processes. We're lucky if we get to their mental, emotional state or psychological state, and rarely do we ever get to spiritual state. So
Yeah.
what if we did it backwards? What if we connected with the patient first and started to address spiritual issues and spiritual principles and gave them hope? Work it backwards, work spirit, mind, and then body.
Well, what I've in my life experiences, and there's quite a few of them.
Me too.
One thing I found is when people are at some of the lowest points in their life and they need the most help, they lose a lot of their spirituality. And that's why, I always come to people with I'm not some religious based guy, but I'm very spiritual. And I think that, being able to find something, I don't care what it is, the God of their understanding, whatever. But
Right.
you got to have that faith and that hope, in something,
Yes.
because it starts there, man. Definitely.
Think about it, if we can bring patients hope, what is that going to do? It's going to inspire them. It's going to they're going to be in spirit, inspiration. And when we're in spirit, We actually want to do something. We're going to be creative, and inspiration sparks our creativity. So hope and inspiration for what? Growth, right? So once we're inspired, we have to do something. We have to do something for that growth, to grow in health. So hope, inspiration, growth, and then healing, right? Healing isn't the absence of illness or disease, but it's doing the best with what we can right here, right now. So I think your program's awesome. I'm looking forward to taking it.
Thank you,
Matt. It has been a true pleasure.
Having me on again. Just it's an honor to be able to talk about this because, like I said, I have a lot of passion for it, and I really hope that somehow I can make a difference in some people's lives and maybe show them that you're not alone. And, a guy told me once, we're all wounded warriors, but we can truly heal.
Yes, we can. Healing the wounded healer.
That's right.
True archetype. Many of us are, truly. All right, don't hang up yet, but I'm going to end the show. Everyone, thank you for joining us. We're going to have all of his information. He's going to have a website. We're probably going to have him on again. I'm going to be taking his course, and his course will be available on The Green Nurse. I can't wait for that. And remember, everyone, truly what it's all about. It's about living your best life.